What's up guys, welcome to BroBeatzTV. Today I'll be showing you a few methods you can use to emotionally manipulate artists into wanting to rap or sing on your beats. If you do end up enjoying the video, make sure you do hit that sub button and turn post notifications on because it does help a lot. Let's hop into the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into it. So with this video, I'm gonna just take my time. I'm not gonna be worried about how long the parts are and stuff like that. So if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, then that's the time it's gonna be. I know people like shorter videos, but you know, I'm just trying to show y'all this. And I would market this as like a, I guess, advanced, but I don't really like those terms necessarily because I think it's just an illusion. It's just like type beat terms. I feel like it takes what it takes to make a beat. If you're pro level, right, and you sell beats and stuff, if it takes you 10 minutes, you put a sample, you throw a piano on and some trap drums, then that's how long it takes you, right? Or if you want to spend more time and you want to add automation clips and you want to add a bunch of samples and stuff or make your own melody, and that's what it takes you to make that beat. I really try to like separate the beats, like, oh, this is a beginner beat, or you know, it is what it is. But for this, I want to go over sound selection first. Like I said, I'm gonna just take my time and explain what I want. So this here, you have to understand, when you see this stuff, it takes me maybe like 10 to 15 minutes to pick sounds that I like, right? And how I do that is I load up, usually by now I know what sounds. So what you can do is I do this, and if you play the sounds together, they should if they sound good like this, they'll sound good in melody. Okay, and obviously it's one note. If you want to use a chord, you can, and you can kind of pick your sounds that way. So here's the formula that I would use for this. So I would pick a real instrument. The reason why is because I guess just historically, like people, it's easier to, I guess, I'm not gonna say it's easier to rap to, but people are more used to like singing to pianos and guitars and stuff, right? So that is one way you can manipulate it. So I like guitars. When I hear guitar in a beat, I'll automatically listen, okay? And then you want to pick sounds that follow up that sound. So these sounds should be very ambient, have reverb and delay, or maybe even a chorus, something like that. And you want these to be very low key, okay? So you don't want them to be as strong. So I'll show you the difference. You can see you can barely tell what sounds these are, okay? Like if I just clicked a random one, you wouldn't be able to tell me which sound or instrument or VST is from, right? So they're very ambient, they're very rounded off. And rounded, I just mean a lot of the high end is cut off and a lot of the low end, so it's more of like a low mid sound on the spectrum or the EQ. And then we have another realistic, like piano-ish sound. They have some character, of course, but this is for a counter, okay? Just like a secondary melody you can throw in there, like if you want to throw in the verse or you want a low point, okay? But just stick with this formula. Obviously you can go outside of it. You don't have to completely listen, but it's just something that you can put in your mind and then later you can use, right? So it's a guitar and then just follow-up sounds that support the guitar, okay? And drums, just, yeah, I mean, it's just trap drums, right? Okay, so that's sound selection. I know that took a long time, but look, I told you, I don't care if the video is 20 minutes. I gotta explain what I gotta explain. So let's actually get into making a melody. All right, so let's get started with the melody, and this is the guitar we're using. Now, if you're a beginner, don't worry too much about the sounds people are using, because you can always exchange and buy new sounds later. But if you forget to actually learn how to place the sounds and how to utilize the velocity and all the little tricks, then once you get these sounds, they're still gonna be trash. Okay, so don't worry too much about the sounds. Try to focus on the technique and the skill. So for a scale, obviously a minor. Let's do a C sharp minor. Whatever, we could transpose if it's too low. So let's go in here, and what we're gonna do is just find a bass line. Now, an easy way to find a bass line is just to put down a chord. If you don't know chords, you go to stamps and you can drop in a chord, okay? And pretty much what you would do, you would build your chord, skip over the note within the scale. You can invert some of the notes to find different bass lines and stuff like that. And obviously that's a huge range, but you want to try to keep it in the same range, and then offset them. And I would recommend giving them a rhythm. I'm not going to go over that necessarily, but you don't want it to be super robotic like this, like completely on the grid like this. Usually you want it to be offset because it's more humanized. anyway, you would do something like this or like that, right? And then you add a +1. The +1 is just pretty much any note in the range of this bass line. So any of these notes like that, okay? Oops. All right, so these could be +1s, and obviously you can go outside. So if you want to add a chord, you can, or not a chord, but you want to extend from this note, you can. If you want to extend from here, you can. There's no rules really, but this is just a formula that will help you make it sound good. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do what I like to do, and I'm gonna go both ways. So you can go up or you can make a chord backwards. I like to do both. So we make a dyad up, we make a dyad down, and the reason I like this is because it hits both spots. So it hits these areas, which are like the tension areas or half steps. I do wish they had more modernized names to match the visual way of making music now, but it is what it is. And pretty much when you move to these or away from these, it'll create a melodic sound, or not a melodic, but it'll either create a dark tension or a sad tension. Right? You can mix and match the tensions. Okay, so let's use this and get on with it. I'm gonna pull this over, and then let's do a +1 like this. I'm gonna just extend this like that. Okay, now one last thing is the timing. If you want it to be instantly rappable, I always recommend to stretch it out over 4 bars at least. Okay, now you can do shorter, because obviously there are melodies that are quick and short like this, but it is sometimes difficult if the melody doesn't sound right or the sound selection isn't right to make it rappable. So I think the easiest way is just to stretch your chords out over 4 bars. Now, if you have 3 chords, one way to do this is to make your last chord stretch over 2 bars like that, and that is an easy way, and that is like the thirds method. Okay, so let's make our melody. Enough yapping. Let's go in here and let's make this simple. We're gonna take these 2 tension notes and pull them up an octave. That's your first step. Now your goal here is to make a memorable, catchy melody. So we're going to make one single 1-bar melody here. Okay, and we're gonna use these notes because we want it to be sad. And let's pull this down an octave. Well, we can keep it up here for now. And let's make a chord downward. Okay, so we're gonna kind of use that. Actually, let's do this in 1/3. Okay, so we're gonna use the 1/3 grid for this, so it's not too robotic. And then we're just gonna copy this, and we're just gonna contain this here. All right, so I like that. Very, very simple. And we're just gonna literally copy it. Okay, we want this to be as catchy as possible. Now you can change the notes up if you want, but I'm gonna just keep this simple since we already have, already spent too much time on this. And this will be the most difficult part, so don't worry. Pull it down. Okay, so now we need to add a top melody, and this is the easiest part because we're just gonna take this note and make a chord out of it all the way up. And now we have a top melody. Spread them out. And then we could take this, pull it up an octave. Matter of fact, let's not even do that. Let's make it easier. Let's take this, pull it up, and then we're just gonna stretch the notes out. And then just use the notes we already have in here. So let's see. I want these to be a little bit. And let's like build these up into this notes. Let's pull this back in just like that. And it's very simple. All right, and that is our melody. Very simple. Now we can move on to the next parts. All right, so now we're moving on to our more support-like sounds. So this one thing I did add is I put a tape echo or delay. Just to kind of fill in that space. So what we can do is take from here. So we can take this E, D sharp, and B. Okay. And we could literally use that to build us a little nice melody. So we could use the same grid. And with this, you don't want to play it too much depending on what type of melody you make. So let's maybe do it right here. Let's make a chord from here like that. And then we can kind of trickle it down. Let's see. Keep that at the B. Make sure that's on beat. Okay, now let's copy it over on this side, pull it down, and we're just gonna literally just change it a little bit. Okay, I like that. I'll probably turn the velocity up on this, and we can move on to the next one. Okay, so next thing is layering. So I would recommend try layering sounds, because when you combine certain sounds, sometimes they can create a interesting kind of, I guess, vibe or mood, depending on the sounds that you combine. So I picked this one, and a lot of these are custom sounds. So just pay attention to some of the effects that I have here. This is obviously like a bell, or like that vibe bell. So I'm gonna copy this here. Okay. And we can try different octaves as well. Okay, I like that. And one other reason you can layer is to blend in sounds that don't really match together well. I talked about this a while ago, but you can kind of, because you can see now the guitar fits in more. It's because these sounds kind of are in the same category, and this is a realistic sound. So when you layer it, it'll kind of blend the guitar and this synth-like sound together. So it'll allow you, it'll open the doors for you to use more synths. Not exactly, right? But it is something that you can try to do, okay? So that is layering. Let's move on to the next one. All right, so here's our next sound. It's kind of like a flute-ish bell, okay? So one thing I want you to pay attention to is the melody has not changed, right? So the main melody is still here. Right, so what a lot of people do sometimes is they add so many counters that they change the melody, right? It doesn't sound like the original. So that is why I say pick a main sound and then support instruments or, you know, synths to help that sound shine more. Because if you pick 3 guitars or 3 guitar-like sounds and then you have a counter that's a guitar sound, then it'll clash a bit. So let's go in here, and I'm gonna just use my ear for this. Kind of use the same notes, but I'm gonna just kind of use my ear and just kind of let's take this. Let's take the placement. Do something like this. Right, it's just something interesting to throw in there. So what we could do is now move on to our counters now. All right, so now we're moving on to the counters. Okay, now this is where a lot of your emotions should be. So you should really work on this, right? So this will be somewhat of a different melody, but you would want it to obviously be in harmony with this. Okay, so the best way to do this while still having freedom, and the reason I use the word freedom is because you don't want to be like, oh my God, okay, I gotta actually use this chord and then I gotta paste it in here. Like, you don't want to, you know, you want to be free. So you just want to pay attention to the notes you use in which bar. So with this, it's easy because we pretty much just use the same notes, right? So you know the E, D sharp, B, a lot of these notes, whatever, the G sharp, a lot of these notes we're using. So we can get away with just throwing in notes as long as we kind of throw in some of those notes. So for example, let's go here and I'll play the sound. Not really sure what type of sounds, like a mix of a synth and a piano. Let's go in here and make sure the guitar is muted. And let's just find a placement. Okay, and then I'm gonna flam it. So we're gonna make a chord out of this. And you can see we're hitting the B. And just remember those notes. And this will make it 10 times faster for you to make a melody because you'll automatically know what notes to use, right? We already know the E, D sharp, right? And the G. So we can kind of mess around with these, and let's just use these. And then we could play around a little bit more. Let's do a flam here. Right, remember our pattern. Pull this over. You can see it's all coming full circle, like literally. And then we could do a wiggle, right? So between these notes, so wiggle is going from one note to another note, back to that same note like this, or it could be from like this, right? I kind of want to keep these the same size here. Kind of want these to die out like that. And let's do another flam. Okay, let's do it here. So we're on the E now. Let's make a chord backwards out of this. Like this. And then let's pull this up because this might be... Oops. And you can offset some of the notes too. Okay, so we're good there. So now we pretty much, let's repeat it and just change what's over here. So let's maybe just take this and make a chord out of this and kind of just offset some of the notes a bit. See what that sounds like. Right, and then we could just copy this over for a layered sound, because I feel like this video, even though I said I don't really care about the timing of this video, I still don't want it, you know. I'm shooting for 20 minutes. So I don't want this to be, you know, any longer than that. So and I would probably pull that up. I really like the way that sounds. So what I'm gonna do real quick is, matter of fact, I'm gonna just do it off. So that is our melody. So now everything is done. Now we're gonna get into the drums. All right, so now we're gonna start our 808. Now, there's one thing I want to show you is that this is why you be a little selective with your sounds, right? So you have the guitar sound on now, and then we have our pianos on, right? Now you can see that it's a completely different melody than before. Now how I will go about this is play this on a different part of the beat. Now you can sneak it in there, but you got to be selective with the sound that you use. So I'll play it all together. Now as one, it doesn't sound bad, right? But it's kind of hard to figure out what is the actual melody, because there's two playing at the same time, essentially, right? But if we take a guitar out, that's way easier to tell what the melody is, right? If we take these out. So that is something you need to pay attention to. Even if it sounds good, sometimes you gotta sacrifice and be like, okay, I want this to play on this part, etc. But let's go into the bass. This is pretty simple. We can just take these and literally just paste them over. Why didn't they paste? Okay. Shift D, pull them up, and then I'm gonna be very selective with these 808s. I'm only going to put what needs to be there. Oops. Shrink these so we know these are the different ones, and I'm gonna take them out, and that is our 808 pattern. Okay, and I did copy everything over so we can use that high-pitched area. Okay, I know I'm taking a long time in this video. I told you I'm taking my time. I'm just having fun. Okay, so yeah, that's, I want to see what this sounds like. Oh, I really like that. All right, so now we can do the drums. This can be very simple since we did so much with our melody. All right, so now we're gonna move on to the drums. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind, okay, with all of this, all we did, all of this followed the same exact formula the whole time through. E, D sharp, B, and then if you pull a chord up, you can see all of these are part of the same harmony. And if you look through all of our melodies, this is all here, okay, which is keeping it rappable, okay? Same notes. Now that doesn't mean use the same exact notes. Of course you can use another note if you want to, right? But if you look, a lot of these notes are kind of the I guess main points of our melody. Okay, so even on our chords, right? Okay, so for our drums, this is very simple. We don't need to do much here. We can go very simplistic. Gotta put the rim in. And then you can right click, set to next bar. And I'm gonna just play the low parts so we don't ruin the end. Just at the velocity. I like to play around with the drums, have like different types of sounds instead of just the main hi-hat, because it's kind of boring to me personally. So let's So let's right click, set to next bar, right click, set to next bar. Kind of right there. Okay, I think that's good enough, right? It doesn't need to be set this to 64 so it doesn't repeat the whole time. And I probably should have just did this. Yeah, okay. All right, so that is the beat. We could mix it and stuff, but I think it sounds fine the way it is. And let's play the whole thing. I'll play both parts. Okay. right, and that is the beat. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.